Hi, this is George coming to you from Nautilus Mission Control at the Inner Space Center in Rhode Island. And I'm joined today by Todd Gregory, lead mechanical designer and one of the creators of Hercules. Todd is going to walk us through a typical recovery sequence to get Argus and Herc back on the boat. So what's the first step, Todd?
Okay. I guess to preface that is one reason we even want to bring the vehicles back is because they're full of samples. And scientists are there standing by and ready to go. So the first thing we'll do, we'll winch Argus all the way up to the surface. There's 4,300 meters of cable. The vehicles can come up at a rate of about 25 meters a minute. So oftentimes the first thing is just waiting. Argus pilot is sitting there driving the winch with the cable spooling onto it for hours. Once they reach the surface though, time for action. Mark DeRoche, our deck chief, he's getting everyone together back on the fantail, and the first thing we do is we hook onto Argus with some taglines. That's what you see happening right here is Argus getting hooked up to these taglines, and once they get the vehicle under control, then we use these air tuggers, these yellow machines, to pull in on Argus and keep it under control. Keep it from swinging around and getting banging into the ship, really. The sea state here, this is at night. It's a little more of a challenge than the daytime ones just because you can't see as well and everything's damp from the dew and everyone's tired usually. This happens 3, 4 a.m. Everyone gets out of their rack and comes out on deck. But Mark has been doing this for a dozen years and he's a pro. So he's keeping everything under control here. Argus is coming over the fantail. The winch is pulling in on the cable, and the A-frame is coming in at the same time, and that's how you see Argus coming over the deck of the ship. And why it's swinging, you don't notice it so much in the video, but the ship really is moving around quite a bit. There's a good sea state rolling. One thing that helps, though, you can see off the back of Argus is the tether. Hercules is connected and connected tail to tail, the rear end to rear end, and the Hercules pilot up in the control vans is driving Hercules with some thrust to keep the tether tight, and that acts like a sea anchor to keep Argus straight. So the final thing is to pull Argus all the way in with these air tuggers and then tie it down on the deck. We make sure it's secure. Before moving on to the next step is getting the crane ready to lift Hercules out of the water. Here's Mark attaching the lift line to the back of Hercules. And once that's connected, we have the crane operator spool all of that lift line onto the winch drum of the crane and then pull Hercules actually out of the water and back on deck. This operation takes a few minutes. The crane is spooling in on this lift cable, and once that happens, we swing Hercules up and out of the water. We snug it up to this pyramid-shaped object, which we call a sway limiter. It keeps Hercules from rolling and pitching around too much with the ship's motions. Keeps it under control. The folks on the fantail are also holding on to the tether as another means of controlling Hercules. And here, Dr. Chris Roman is our crane operator of the evening, and he is bringing Hercules over the side. And Mark and Katie Croft here, our chief scientist, is about to put the vehicle back down on deck onto its work skid. This is a very special little work skid. It's able to get pulled in and out of the garage, and we'll see that in just a moment. But what you don't see in this picture right here is a team of scientists standing by, frothing at the mouth, excited to get all of their samples off the vehicle. And before they do that, Mark is holding them at bay and getting the vehicle tied down, putting the crane away, and at that point we let the scientists come and take their samples, and they are excited to get to work.
And what happens after they collect the samples? What happens to Herc and Argus once they're on deck and secure?
Well, the first thing is they are secure. We make sure they're tied down, especially when there's a real sea state. And the next thing is we wash everything down really well with fresh water, get the seawater out of all the nooks and crannies. And then the pilots and the technicians will go through a sequence of post-dive checks. We'll hook them up to power on the deck of the ship again. We'll turn the vehicles on. We'll test a few items out and make sure everything's healthy. We really got to make sure nothing happened underwater that we didn't know about. And during the dive, we'll have kept a record of everything that we may see as a problem, and we'll go back and go through that list and check everything out. And then it rolls into the pre-dive of the next dive, because the scientists want to turn the vehicle around and get them right back in the water.
How long can Herc and Argus stay in the water?
Indefinitely. The vehicles can stay in the water indefinitely. The power is supplied from the ship, And the only real reason we pull them out is we either are finished at a location and need to transit somewhere else, or we're full of samples, and it's time for the scientists to get to work in their laboratories.
So how long does the recovery process take?
From the time we bring Argus up to the surface to the time everything is tied down on the deck of the ship is usually 20 to 25 minutes. From the time it goes from the bottom to the surface is dependent how deep we are. If we can rise at 25 meters per minute and we're at 4,000 meters, it's several hours before the vehicles are even on the surface. So it really depends on depth.
Great. Well, speaking of time, thanks, Todd, for taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome.
All right, for those of you at home, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure also to join the expedition live right here at nautiluslive.org.